Welcome back to Collectability. Today we are going to talk white gold. Patek Philippe is known for its white gold because it is beautiful, it's understated, and quite rare in the historical offerings. So today we're going to discuss why white gold was offered in the world of Patek Philippe, and we're going to discuss what is white gold specifically. So let's get started with the why. So Patek Philippe offered white gold as a less expensive option to platinum. And indeed, platinum offerings historically were double, sometimes triple the cost of their white gold counterparts. So you get a similar look, but at 1/3 the price. Now, interestingly, white gold was made in very small numbers with Patek Philippe. So historically, we see white gold examples bring much more money than their yellow gold counterparts, and sometimes even more than platinum based on their rarity. And we'll look at that more closely shortly. So what is white gold? Now, white gold is essentially produced by 75% pure gold, and this is 18 karat white gold we're discussing. So it's 75% pure gold. It's 12.5% palladium, and the remaining secret mixture is 12.5% silver. And this is what gives white gold its unique look. Now, often white gold is covered in rhodium. So it's plated in rhodium to give it that unique shine that we see. And we're going to compare that shortly. So we have to remember when we're looking at white gold, 18 karat white gold specifically, it's 75% pure gold, and the remaining 25% is that secret mixture of alloys that various brands use to give their distinct look. So within the world of Patek Philippe, we have to remember a couple of things. White gold was used going back to the early 20th century. There are even some examples of it used earlier. And it was traditionally plated in rhodium to give that bright shine and shimmer. Now, when we see white gold that's not plated, this has a more of a grayish look, and it has more almost a duller tone. And you could really see the difference here between the 5053, which is not plated, and this 5296, which is plated in rhodium. You'll note with the 5296, it has that bright, shiny look, and that is the rhodium plating. And here you'll see a duller, more muted tone with the 5053. And that kind of that soft tone is white gold, but not plated. Why, might you ask, is this 5053 not plated? It's because it has an officer-style case that's hinged. And with Patek Philippe, if it has a hinged case, like we see here, it can't be plated, or it would be worn where the hinge is. So I love to see 5059s and 5053s, these popular officer-style watches, because they are not plated with rhodium. But let's go back in time and look at some historical offerings from the world of white gold Patek Philippe, and you could judge for yourself the beauty of this noble metal. Starting with my favorite on this tray by far is this reference 2526 in white gold. Why is it my favorite? Because this is understated luxury. This particular piece is rarity defined, understatement on the wrist. If you're outside of the world of Patek Philippe, you'd have no idea how important this watch is. But what we have here is one of 26 known white gold examples of the reference 2526. And interestingly, the platinum 2526s are even more common, just marginally, than the white gold 2526s. So this is rarity in its finest. Here I have a 2526 in white gold with a porcelain enamel dial. And the archive confirms it was born in 1955 with a diamond dial. And I'm happy to say we also have the original diamond dial that will be sold with this watch. So if you're looking for a 2526, the ultimate trophy of mid-20th century automatics, look no further than this particular piece. Next, and this is just a couple years later, this was made in the early 1960s, is a 2573 in white gold. And I love the fact that this has a diamond dial. And you can see the diamonds at 12, 3, 6, and 9 baguettes with this ultra thin case. And the diamonds just pop from the wrist in the most beautiful way with this ultra thin watch from the early 1960s. So the reference 2573, it's a smaller watch than the 2526. It's only 33.8 millimeters, but it has such a massive look on the wrist with that diamond dial. In a word, I would just describe this elegant. Next, I have a watch I have never had before in this particular configuration, and this is a 3796 DG. Now, we all know the 3796, which is such a popular 31 millimeter Calatrava, but we might not have seen the 3796D, because the D stands for decor, which is the decorated bezel, the hobnail bezel that you can see on this particular watch. When you put it on the wrist, the hobnail just pops from the wrist. In the white gold, which is rhodium plated as it was born, is just stunning in the way that it captures the light. For such a small watch, it has such a big look, and I have the original certificate of origin from the Patek Philippe salon in Geneva, showing that this particular piece was sold in 1993. Next, as I showed you briefly earlier, is a reference 5053 in white gold. So this particular officer's watch was made only from 2001 to 2005, and it had this silver grain dial that it's aging so well. I mean, when this watch first came out 20 years ago, I admit I wasn't in love with it, but now I absolutely love how the dial and this watch is aging. And the tone of the white gold in particular really wins me over. And I love the fact that you could open up the back of the case and see the movement within. Originally, these retailed for 21,300 Swiss francs, and it's quite incredible that you can buy this watch today for essentially the same retail from 20 years ago. So in a word, it's all about value. Next is a 5296 from circa 2006. And when these first came out, they initially were released in rose gold and white gold, both with sector dials. So whenever I see a 5296 appear, I always prefer the sector dial because it has that vintage appeal. And at 38 millimeters, it's the right size for someone that's not used to wearing much smaller watches. So for now considered a neo-vintage watch, I consider this an interesting watch to wear on a daily basis. And in a word, I'd consider it a classic. And last but not least, I have a 5205G in the beautiful white gold. And you can see this is clearly a rhodium plated version. And it is just exquisite when it's worn on your wrist and the way that it captures the light. And an annual calendar today from this era represents such great value. Just compare it to a 6007 in the current Patek Philippe offering. That's their new Calatrava. It retails for $37,000 US. And for the same price, you can have an annual calendar from about 17 years ago. So you get this amazing complication, you get this incredible look, and in a word, I'd just consider this value. So thank you for joining us today as we looked at these 6 white gold watches and surveyed the history of Patek Philippe using this beautiful metal. I hope you learned a bit today, and all of these watches and more are available on collectability.com. Thank you for joining us today, and if you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe on YouTube, Instagram, and also TikTok. And until next time, enjoy the hunt.